Hello everyone again. In this video, we will talk about all the possible ways to blend two animations together inside Unreal Engine. As we are used to in this series, I will guide you to understand all the available options inside the engine and present them to you, starting with the basic methods using additive animation, which is considered the easiest and most basic method. After that, we will move on to all the animation blending methods in the anim graph, where we will talk about several methods that will be very useful to you there, with different implementations for each method. Then we will move on to blend space 2D and blend space. After that, we will talk about blending methods using animation montage. And finally, I will show you a method to blend animations together using level sequence. And at the end, as usual, I will show you some additional methods that can also be useful, such as aim offset. So without prolonging, it will be an easy and creative video as usual. Let's begin. Currently what I have is the default Unreal Engine character. I did not make any modifications or additions here. The only thing I added is a reference to the third-person character here. That's all. As for the animation anim graph, it is unchanged except for my addition of crouching here, but it will not affect what we will do. Regarding the animations we will work on, I previously downloaded several animations from Mixamo, but for now, at the beginning, we will work on this animation. First, we need to create an anim montage from it so we can use it. Then we go to the third-person character. Here we will assign a specific button that plays the animation montage when pressed, where we will use Play Anim Montage. So the result will be like this, and this is the natural result where the animation plays while the legs remain fixed on the ground. While what we want is to blend the leg movement with this hit reaction animation. And here comes the role of using the first method, which is considered the simplest way to blend two animations together, which is using additive animation. To use it, inside the animation in this section here, we scroll down a bit to additive setting. From here, we choose mesh space, then selected animation scale. Here you can choose the animation that you will blend with the current animation. Just use the idle animation. I consider this the best option. After this simple modification, let's try immediately now. The character's movement has now become smoother for sure, and the foot movement is no longer stiff as it was before. Alright, this was the first and simplest method to blend two animations together. But let's say now that you do not want to play this animation using the anim montage node, but inside the anim graph. Here things differ a bit because you cannot just place it directly simply. And here comes the second method, which is using additive animation inside the anim graph. To use it, we only need to call the Apply Mesh Space Additive node. And naturally, we connect the additive with the modified animation, and the base with the character's main movements. And finally, I will enable the loop option on the animation. Now, if we try again, we will notice that the character applies the same animation again without problems and with good blending. But the problem this time is that the animation will keep running all the time, and this is not what we want. We want to play this animation only in a specific case, like before, when pressing a specific button. Alright, and here comes the third method, which is using Blend Poses By. This node allows you to blend multiple animations together, or more accurately, transition between multiple animations. Before using it, let's go back to the character blueprint. Here I will create a new variable that we will need later. I will use the same previous button to execute this. I will use flip-flop and put the variable in it to change when pressed. After creating it, we return here again, and in the event graph, we make the variable that we created from the third-person character a variable here as well. We cannot take it from the third-person character because that will not work. This is an important step. Now here we will use Blend Poses By, where there are three types of it. And the first one is Blend Poses by Boolean, where you determine the transition between two animations using a Boolean variable. But to make it more organized, I will use new cache here and rename it to main pose, and then just type main pose to use it in a more organized way here. And in the true input, we put the blended animation. In the false input, we put the main pose. I will also use print string here so you can notice the button change. Let's try now. Yes, we move normally. And when pressing, the animation is activated. And when pressing again, it stops and returns to its initial state. Exactly what we want. And when jumping, we get a strange kind of chimpanzee, a really rare breed. So let's return to the new one again. The second type is blend pose by integer. Simply here, we activate the animation based on an integer variable number. If the number is 0, then it activates the animation in blend pose 0. And if it is 1, then it activates pose 1, and so on. To try it, we go back here and create a new integer variable. I will make it increase by a value of 1 every time I press, and I will also display its number using print string. As usual, we need to make it a variable here first before using it. Then we connect it here and replace it with this part. Now, if you notice, we only have 2 inputs here, and if we have more than 2 animations to switch between, we need more. So simply left-click on the node and choose the Add Blend Pin option, and a new animation input will appear. Currently, I prepared 4 because I already have 4 animations prepared for this, and I applied additive animation to all of them, and these are all the animations I have. So simply, I will connect each animation to a different input in the same previous way. All right, we do not want the character to take this pose from the beginning, so I will create a new pin and put the main pose in blend pose 0. And finally, I will enable the loop animation option on all of them. Let's try and see what we get. On the first press, the first animation plays, and on the second press, the second animation plays. Then the third, and finally the fourth animation. And when pressing again, it stays in the same last animation pose because there is no other animation to play. And thus, we get a new type of flying chimpanzee, a truly rare species. All right, after this we move to the last type, which is blend pose by enumeration. All right, we need to create an enumeration first before using it. We will follow the same previous steps where we create a variable in the character blueprint, then put it on the same button to increase by 1 with each press and display it using print string. Then we move here and make it a variable. Now to use it, we need to type blend poses by and then write the name of the enumeration that we will use. It is actually very useful. Imagine, for example, that you have a combat system and you need an animation for taking a hit from the right and an animation for taking a hit from the left. It is very useful in such cases. So currently, in the enumeration, using the same previous example, I will create some random names here just for testing. Now, to show the names we put in the enumeration like we did before, we bring it back here and you will find options at the bottom here. So let's delete these now and replace them with these. The default pose will be main pose, and the rest I will connect to the rest of the animations. Before we test, we need just a small modification here to the pose test variable to set it to left hit. Now, as you see, the first animation has been activated already, and with each press, the animation changes like before as well. But the difference is that the moment we exceed what exists in the enumeration, it automatically returns to the main pose. The fourth method is using layered blend per bone. This node performs blending between the player's original movement and a specific animation at the level of specific bones. Currently, I will take the main pose and the reaction animations and place them here. I will remove any additive animation. Now go directly here, and in the layer setup, we will add a new element. In blend depth, we put 1, and in bone name here, we need the name of the bone from which the blending will start, meaning the bone you place here will be affected along with any other bone connected to it by the animation, and any bone not connected to it will not be affected by the animation. And I will choose spine 01. As you can see, it already started performing the movement. Honestly, I see it closer to a mentally disturbed person. I started to doubt what I am actually doing here. And yes, it worked indeed. We can even apply the effect only to the arm, for example. And yes, congratulations. We now have a character that went from having split personality disorder to a character suffering from constant body tremors. A useful development to some extent. Okay, I will return it to spine 01. Now, since we do not want this animation to be active all the time, we can simply use what we used previously, which is blend poses by Boolean. And of course, we reconnect it here and here as well. Okay, the process was successfully executed. I don't know if I should call this a success. It really started to make me feel sad for him. Next, what we can use is blend pose. You will find blend pose and blend pose 1D, but since we are aiming to blend two animations to achieve blending, we will simply use blend pose 1D. Here we will place the reaction animation first. And then here comes an important point I need to tell you. You cannot use any animation that contains additive animation here. The engine will specifically reject that. So you must remove anything you placed in the additive settings before placing it in the blend space. Now it can be placed normally. You can move it and place it in the anim graph normally, and you can set a value here that represents the blend point. Since we aim for blending, using a middle value is appropriate. If we play now, yes, there is no blending. But what I wanted to show you is that if after placing the animation in the blend space, you get a brilliant idea and decide to modify the additive settings of one of the animations there, this is what will happen. You will literally turn into an insect in the literal sense. I did not see any reason to try to fix this issue, so I didn't even try. Okay, to make the movement blended with the player's movement, we can place the blend space animation here. And as I said, you can change the blend space value as you like. Let's say you want to get the player's animation shape at point 10 or 80. You go here and see which frame you want to use the animation from, and that's it. And as a final tip, if you want smoother animation movement, you can increase this value here. I do not recommend increase it greatly, but this depends on the type of animation you have. The last method in the anim graph is using slot group. This is a very effective method if you are dealing with multiple animation montages and you want a certain type of animation to blend from one bone and another animation from another bone. First, we return the basic movement here. And in the character blueprint, we reconnect the button with Play Anim Montage. So in the animation montage, when you click here, you will find an option that contains multiple slots to choose from. You can choose whatever you want, as long as you remember your choice. Or you can go to the Anim Slot Manager, and if it is not visible for you, you can show it from here. Then you create a new slot and name it whatever you want. We return here and choose the slot we created. That's all we do here. After that, we return here directly and reuse layered blend per bone. And from the main pose, we connect it with the default slot. And we simply change it here to the slot we created previously. And with this, we are done. So, to summarize what we did, we simply defined that any animation montage that contains the upper slot will blend that montage animation with the main pose animation that we defined here. Of course, you can create as many slots as you want and give each one a specific blending behavior. And yes, our mentally disabled character is working well. Finally, I will show you the last way to blend animations, and this time using level sequence. So I will search for rig, character, and place it in the world. This will automatically create a new ready level sequence. So we will delete these parts here because we won't need them now. By the way, I also have some other animations that I downloaded randomly and without relation, just to show you how to blend them now. Currently, I will place a run animation and use it twice. Now, if you notice, the transition between animations does not continue as it returns to 0 every time. Okay, to fix this and blend the two movements together so they complete each other, we click on the last animation and choose Match with this bone in previous clip, and choose Pelvis instead of Root because from my experience, this is a better option. Now, if you notice, the transition is extremely smooth and happens sequentially, completing the previous animation. I will then add another animation and apply the same method, Match with Pelvis. The transition becomes smooth, and if you notice, it gives a feeling of running and then as if he stumbled over something and almost fell. And yes, I will add another one and apply the same steps. So in the end, we get this. What I showed were all the possible ways to blend animations together. And of course, as usual, there are still other methods that can be used, such as using IK. It may not be blending in the true sense, but it works. Or even using inertial blending, which is a good addition as well. There is also a useful use of aim offset, where you make one of the player's limbs follow a certain location, such as making his head always look at a specific point, or making an NPC's arm always point toward you, so you can later support it with IK and do many things. But if your goal is only to blend animations together, then you have achieved your goal. Thank you for watching until this point, and don't forget to subscribe as usual. See you in another video.